Right then, the mountain's first challenge, having the bus stuck somewhere down the road, has finally been overcome. Our gear's all here, doing final checks, everything seems to be in order, but night is going to fall fairly soon. Temperatures will drop, the rain might actually come. The weather around here snaps very quickly, so torches, very handy. Rain gear, in my case a poncho, also very handy. It's one thing to talk about climbing the mountain, it's another thing to actually do it. This is a part where actually the rubber meets the road, so let's go climb Mount Kilimanjaro, shall we?
After much preparation, we are finally on the trail that will hopefully take us to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. The first day and a half of our journey will be through this lush, thick mountain forest. It may be one of the wettest parts of the mountain, but it contains an amazing variety of unique plants and animals. It's an otherworldly environment filled with ferns and mosses and enormous trees draped in bearded lichens. In the 19th century, Kilimanjaro was a key destination for botanists and plant collectors from all over the world. Several species, such as the impatiens kilimanjari, cannot be found anywhere else on Earth. As the day draws to an end, the team are still on the trail. The density of the forest and the humidity have a sapping effect on energy and morale. I, for one, am getting tired, and our camp is still a way ahead. Early morning in the forests of Kilimanjaro is a magical time. As the sunlight clears the mists away, our journey up Africa's highest mountain continues. As we leave the forest behind, we emerge to some spectacular views of the surrounding landscape. Our camp is the only shelter for miles around, so we must push on. The landscape is bleak and the going extremely tough. Eventually, we crest the Shira Ridge and are rewarded with our first views of the Shira Plateau and hiding in the cloud, the snow-capped peak of the mountain. Our camp is also in view, and a final effort gets us to shelter and rest. For the next 2 days, we relentlessly continue our trek across Kilimanjaro's stark heath and moorland. We travel through good weather and bad, with the mountaintop continuously playing hide and seek with the group. The Shira Plateau is actually the collapsed crater of the oldest of the 3 volcanic vents that together make up Mount Kilimanjaro. While the highest, and our current objective, Kibo, is dormant, Mawenzi and Shira are no longer active. It's in environments like this that you start to understand how the many myths and legends of the mountain have come about. The Chaga people long believed that there were magical genies and spirits living on the mountain, and there are many tales of treasure troves hidden in Kilimanjaro's unexplored caves and valleys. Talking to these legends of the mountain has made me more aware than ever of how difficult this climb can be. The team moves on, and we're finally getting towards the end of the Shira Plateau. We're making progress in our mission to get to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. The vast change in landscape and vegetation means we're leaving behind the moorland and we're entering the alpine desert. But progress is getting much harder. Summiting the world's tallest freestanding mountain is neither quick nor easy, especially with a film crew tagging along and a mountain throwing some extremely foul weather down at us. Back on the trail, the cold and the rapidly changing weather makes for tough going. Before the use of tents and huts, climbers of Kilimanjaro used to spend the night in one of its many caves, which also happened to provide excellent shelter from the rain. The saturating weather does not stop, and the team doesn't either. We have to make it to Lava Tower in good time if we are to get to our camp at the base of the treacherous western breach by nightfall. I have to push myself. The altitude and the conditions mean my head is down and I barely notice the looming presence of Lava Tower in the mist ahead. The tower is a huge stack of cooled and hardened lava that dominates the landscape. It's a volcanic plug, effectively corking the vent that created it. The Barranca Wall is a 250-meter-high rock face that we slowly ascend. Frankly, it's amazing how the porters and the heavy burdens skillfully navigate their way up. It's wet and it's slippery, and there's a surge in the number of climbers now that we are in the final days of our trek. For 2 more days, we continue walking through some incredible landscapes. We're back on the cusp between climatic zones, so sometimes we're surrounded by lush greenery, other times just volcanic dust and rocks. We're really high up now, close to 4,600 meters. The wind is buffeting us, the air is numbingly cold, the light is strange, and it's exhausting to walk. The landscape seems barren and empty, but if you look carefully, there are glimpses of life everywhere. Our next camp is our last before we make for the summit early tomorrow morning. If all goes well, we'll soon be standing beside the glaciers and the snow that we've had tantalizing glimpses of ever since we started our climb. But it's not going to be an easy day. It is at least a 6-hour trek, and the risk of altitude sickness looms larger than ever. After all we've been through, not making it would be devastating. It is the night before we attempt to get to the highest point in Africa. The team is camped on a rocky outcrop at Barafu Camp, an eerily beautiful location over 4.5 kilometers above sea level. We are all tired, but the mood is one of hushed excitement as we near our goal. We emerge early from our tent to begin what is hopefully our last section of uphill trekking. The mountain kindly provides us with a spectacular dawn as a fitting backdrop to the final stage of our adventure. We're level with the Redmond Glacier, which means we're nearly at stellar point on the rim of Kibo's crater. Uhuru Peak, the highest point in Africa, is an hour or so on from here. It's a little odd that a lump of rock on the rim of Kibo's crater, which is slightly higher than the hundreds of others around it, can be such a draw to thousands of trekkers every year. But when you're up here and you've walked so far, you can think of little else except getting to that famous landmark. I'm close now. I'm exhausted, and I have to stop frequently, but I can see the sign marking the peak in the distance. From the top of Africa, the only way for the team now is down. But we will be going off the tourist trail and attempting to show you some of Kilimanjaro's magical frozen landscapes and vanishing hidden treasures before it's too late. We are at the highest point in Africa, on top of Mount Kilimanjaro. We're going to explore the summit, and to do that we need to move on to what must be the highest campsite in Africa. There is no set trail to where we're going, and for a snow and ice rookie like me, it's going to be an interesting cross-country trek. The center of Kibo's summit is a near perfect example of a volcanic ash pit. And it's one of the most breathtaking sights you will ever see. It's easy to forget that Kibo is still an active volcano, even though the last major eruption is estimated to have been over 350,000 years ago. At last, our camp is in sight. Settled at the foot of the northern ice field, and surely one of the most dramatic places to spend a night. The guides told us that sleep may be hard to come by at such a height. And yet, being awake in such a unique place isn't really a bad thing. With morning comes a clear day, and a chance to explore a truly magical landscape. The snow and ice of Kilimanjaro are as widely talked about today as they were when the first European explorers set eyes on Kilimanjaro's white peak. Back then, the idea of a snow-capped mountain so close to the equator was greeted with disbelief and ridicule. These days, through rising temperatures and reduced precipitation, it's that the snow and ice is vanishing at such an alarming rate that's making the headlines. And they're disappearing not because of any large increase in temperature up here, but, believe it or not, due to a lack of snow. If ice is melting at its normal rate, but there's no precipitation to replenish the glacier, it will inevitably vanish. This year, with higher than normal snowfall during the region's short rains, the height of the northern ice field has grown by 4 meters, back to its level in 2011. Because it's still a big glacier, snow can pile up on top and freeze solid. However, the total area of the northern ice field continues to reduce as it takes a huge amount of snow to expand a glacier sideways. I am sad to be leaving, but I'm also very pleased to be heading home. It has been an unmatchable experience exploring Kilimanjaro, and the team have learned a lot about the mountain and ourselves. We were lucky that our time up here coincided with higher than usual snow cover, so we saw it as most now don't get the chance to. My last feeling is that if an urban dweller like me can get up here, then anyone can. And what you see and learn looking down on the rest of the continent will make an impression on you forever. We should be very proud of places like this and protect them however possible, so that people and generations to come can also marvel at the white roof of Africa.